Grodin. I am the music director for Junior Bach Festival. And we are delighted to have Voices of Music and violinist Chloe Kim with us today. This year, the workshop is virtual, as you can see, and all of the auditions are virtual for Junior Bach. And judges will see, and they won't see anybody besides organists and vocalists. Everyone else is going to be heard in a recorded audition and evaluated by a panel of 3 judges. And everyone wants to sound their best. So when you have a problem or an issue, what do? You go to your friends and you go to the experts. And in this case, we have both. Hanneke from Proostij and David Tayler from Voices of Music are with us today. If you don't know about Voices of Music, you should please find out about it right away. About 18 million people watch their recordings every year. That works out to about 80,000 people per day. And so they really know what they're doing, and they have a lot of good advice for us. Hanneke from Proostij is a wonderful recorder player and keyboard player, and David Tayler is a lutenist and plays all kinds of guitars, and both are very interested in how you get the very, very best quality recording. Violinist Chloe Kim has won multiple awards. She's an international star, and locally she has won the Bay Area Audience Choice Award in 2021 with Voices of Music for her, yay, for her wonderful best solo streaming instrumental recital. So we're very grateful to her. She has also produced her own, in coordination with multiple organizations, a chamber music series that is streamed. So all 3 are experts and can tell us so much. And I think before we go on, I just wanted to tell you that we're going to have sort of 2 parts to this. One is how to set up your most gorgeous, wonderful acoustic and make your very best recording. And the other part will be how do you separate audio from video and send your recording where it needs to go. So maybe Chloe, can you please get us started here? Tell us some tips, give us some tips on recording. What has worked for you and what do you advise?
Hi, thank you for having me. Thanks, Lisa. I would say that it's really great to be prepared for these things. So I would advise, this is not one of those situations where being early is better. I would say wait and really take your time in preparing, practicing, making sure that these movements really reflect your best version of yourself. Ooh, is that me? I don't think it is. Yeah, so really make sure that these movements reflect your preparation. Choose contrasting movements, something that shows your technique, something that you feel reflects your strengths. Do have your parents or somebody review the tapes with you after, or the takes with you after. It's really great to do that. Oh, I think someone's not muted. Yes. So for those of you who are looking to buy some equipment, I would recommend going with the Zoom recorder. Otherwise, David and Hanneke can help with using your phone.
There's a question, Chloe. Is it necessary to have recording equipment other than your phone?
No, it's not necessary, but I do really recommend having a Zoom recorder. It will come in handy in the future, I assure you. Yes.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Chloe. I think we're going to get to that, but if there's one piece of, don't go on a shopping spree and buying a whole bunch of expensive equipment. The Zoom H1N, and we'll have a little feature on that a little farther along. It's about $99, and it's very good sound. So, I'd just like to add to what Chloe said, that you should be comfortable and you should look good. And let's just also talk a little bit about the room you're going to be in. One of the things that makes a big difference in the sound is the room you're in. So, if you're in different rooms, your sound is going to be different, and you want to find a space that's away from noise, not next to the refrigerator. And if you have a room, or if you have a friend with a room, or someone with a room with a lot of books in it and a sofa, that's your best bet. Whether you play the cello or the violin or the oboe or whatever you're playing now, if you're playing the piano, you may not want to move that piano into a different room. But I'm just saying, in general, look for a room that doesn't have a lot of bouncing reflections off the walls and the windows. And also, make sure you have a room that's not next to a source of noise. If there's a fan or something and you can turn it off, that's great. Don't turn off the fridge. Just we always feel like we need to tell people, oh, the fridge is making too much noise. I'll just pull the plug. Don't do that. And then the easiest way to record is with your phone. And you can lean your phone up against a book. Remember, a book sort of provides a nice acoustic background for a microphone or a phone. And you want that phone to be basically 2 to 4 feet from your instrument. And so these are just basic things that are going to make the recording sound a lot better. You want to record closer to the instrument. You want to make sure you're in a room that's not too loud. And you want, if you can, to place the recording device, whether it's a phone or a microphone, so that it sounds good for your instrument. For about $10, you can buy a little tripod to hold your phone.
Yeah, and the tripod will have a little clamp on it. That way you won't have a wavy, person trying to hold the phone. So it'll be nice and stable in the video. There are many types of phones, but they all record audio. There are also many different types of apps. Fortunately for us nowadays, it's very easy to go on YouTube and find for your specific phone how to use it, because otherwise we would be here till next week if we went through every
there's so many models of phones. We can't say, oh, just do this. You have to look at your phone model and say, and a lot of times the phone will come with a built-in recording app, which is just fine. We are going to mention 2 audio apps, which I think are either free or very low cost. One is BandLab and one is Spire. And those are tried and true, just audio apps for your smartphone that you can use.
Where are we next? Sorry.
Turning off the microphones.
No, go ahead.
Well, typically a phone has lots of microphones, and that's because if you're holding it this way or holding it that way, or you're upside down or in your car, the phone can pick up the sound. And when you're recording audio, basically you want to turn off the microphones that are facing the back of the room or the refrigerator or anything else, and you want to just leave on the microphones that are facing the musical instrument. Now, if you can't figure out how to do that, and each phone is different, just make sure that the phone is pretty close to the instrument, because the relative signal of the sound is the easiest way to get a good recording. If you're close to the instrument, you're going to hear more of the instrument, and if you're farther away from other sources of noise, you're not going to hear them so much. And in general, you want that recording device to be positioned higher in the room. And that's because all musical instruments project up, going back to the days of when, these instruments were designed. They were designed to project over the audience into the back of the hall. And so if you're holding a violin, that sound's going to go up. If you're playing the oboe or the flute or the recorder, that sound's going to go up. And an instrument like the piano, the soundboard is facing the ceiling. It's not facing the audience. So it might have a reflector. So just remember that you don't want that recording device to be positioned near the floor where you're going to get a lot of bass reflections. You want it up closer, if you're standing up, maybe 5 or 6 feet up. And you just have to, depends on the instrument, but that's a good starting point.
The Junior Bach Festival would like to have the audio files as MP3s. There are some apps, such as the voice recorder on the iPhone, that will record in a different format. So just make sure that whichever app you use, that it will record in MP3. And as we said, BandLab, Inspire are very easy to use.
Now, if you accidentally record the whole thing in a proprietary format, and Apple products tend to record in a proprietary format, it's not the end of the world. You can convert an MP4 or an M4A or an AAC, whatever that format is. There's usually a place where you can just go online and upload it and convert it into something else. One thing that you might encounter when you're recording is it'll say stereo or mono, and there'll be something that says bitrate. And we don't want to go into all the technical details here, but basically you want it to be stereo. And your bit rate should be 256 or 320. And we're not going to talk about bits and bytes and how many bits are in a byte. Whatever those numbers are, just look at 256 or 320 if you have a choice there. And if you don't have a choice, it's probably going to sound okay, whatever the default is.
So I have a little question. What is a proprietary format?
Well, certain manufacturers like to keep everybody within their little bubble for financial reasons. And of course, they're in business, but that means that the formats are not open source. So they don't, you could play it on one computer, but you can't play it on another computer. MP3, you can play on anything. So that's like the universal language for compressed music. And if it's uncompressed, it's something called PCM. And then some manufacturers say, well, we only want you to buy from our store. So they'll take that MP3 and they'll add a little code to the header and make it only plays on this computer, it only plays on this phone. And then if you're sending it to somebody and you've got a panel of 10 judges and they all have different computers and phones, it creates problems. So we're not going to go into why companies do that, but well, actually they do it to make money, but whatever, they're in business to make money. So, but it's better just to have an MP3.
This is very, very helpful. And also, Chloe, your suggestions about being comfortable with the music, comfortable in yourself when you're playing, comfortable with the setup is awesome. And I just, out of a little bit of personal experience, maybe on a very practical level, if you have pets, you might want to make sure they're not going to be in the room when you record or make a sudden appearance.
Or swallow the microphone.
Or jump up on your keyboard. If you have young siblings who might be tempted to come in and see what you're doing, maybe make sure that that's quiet and you could silence phones elsewhere in the house. If someone else in the house is playing their favorite rock video or something, just do your best. And I don't know, sometimes you can't predict what's going to happen. And I would say if your cat runs through the video or something while you're, you can't help that, really. We're not after perfection, but we want to hear your best.
Chloe, maybe you could talk about, recording makes you nervous. I've been recording for years and years and years. I still get a little nervous when I see a microphone right in front of me. And maybe, Chloe, you could talk a little bit about how to just prepare yourself for playing something in front of a microphone.
As long as you're prepared, as long as you have practiced, I think you won't have to worry so much about the recording techniques, really. As long as you're prepared, that will always come across in an audio take. And you're not going to have to worry about video again, most of you, because this is just in audio format. So just really try to make sure that for those of you who are just recording sound, to be recording in a space that isn't so dry, so that you feel that you are making your best resonance. Because again, these are unedited takes. You won't be able to add anything like reverb afterward. So do find yourself in a space that you feel comfortable playing in a space that you have practiced, and practice in the space that you're going to be recording in would be my tip. Make sure you're absolutely comfortable there.
And one thing that's important is if you make a mistake or if something doesn't go well when you're playing your take to be recorded, don't stop and go back and play it again. Just keep going.
And don't make a face.
And don't make a face.
Just like in a concert.
In fact, we have to tell ourselves all the time not to make faces. So that's a big thing.
And also when you do a take and you're not happy with it, you can just record it again. You know, and then you can choose your best take at the end. You can do several. It's perfectly fine.
So we talked a little bit about the space and a little bit about, you know, not having the microphone or the smartphone too far away from the audio source. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Zoom H1N we mentioned previously, and we're just going to show you a picture of it, assuming we can share our screen. And here we go. So you can see this is a portable stereo recorder. It's very basic. They make more complicated ones that have more microphones and inputs and do other things. But this is lightweight, it's silent, it's solid state, it runs on batteries, it has 2 microphones, it has a nice big screen that you can see what you're doing, and it's a nice big red record button. And you can place this on a table, you can place it on a book to isolate it a little bit from the vibration, and put it 2 to 4 feet away from your instrument, hit the record button, and it'll make a recording.
And as Chloe was mentioning earlier, this is just a handy recorder to have anyway, because you can record yourself also in the future just for your practice part. And it's you know, it's small and it won't break the bank.
So if you want to buy something, this is what we recommend. This is the budget option. You can buy something cheaper that won't work as well, and you can buy something more expensive that won't work as well. So for any number of reasons, this is kind of the thing to get. You can also plug a microphone into your smartphone or tablet or computer. And we're going to show you one option, which is the Shure MV88 Plus. I hope I remembered the model name correctly. Oh, I guess I did. And the older model does not have the plus, just to make everybody's life confusing. So just make sure that, but the one, it comes with a tripod, and it comes with a little phone holder. It doesn't come with that fancy set of headphones. And this is a very simple stereo microphone. It's very good quality. It's about $250, so it's more expensive than the Shure. Now, I mean, it's more expensive than the Zoom. Now, Zoom makes microphones that you can plug into a phone, but they don't sound as good as the $99 recorder. So we really don't think there's any reason to buy a Zoom microphone to plug into your phone. It's better to buy the recorder. Now, the advantage to the recorder is that you can just record the audio, and if something goes wrong, you're just recording the audio separately. You don't have to split the audio off the video. So, and then the advantage to this is if you're making a video, you can have good audio for your video. So there's sort of 2 different ways to go there. So that's
So the Zoom is about $100, and Shure MV88 Plus is about $250. So don't feel like you have to spend these things. You can record with just your phone. But if you want to have something a little bit more fancy, this is the way that you can go. Shall we go to the next one? Or
yeah, let's look at the next one. So the last thing we're going to mention is if you don't want to use the video, if you're making a video, if you're a vocalist or an organist, and you don't want to use the phone for video, Zoom does make a video and audio recorder, but it's not, we've tested it, it's not as good as a smartphone. So we really don't recommend purchasing the Zoom. Even though Zoom is a good company, we don't like their video recorder. And in fact, most smartphones can take very good video. If you wanted something a little better, this is the Sony Zv1. You'll notice that the screen flips around so you can see yourself in the screen. And you can plug a microphone into it. And this is if you really want to get into video. This is a nice, really professional level camera. I think it's about $600 or $700, so it's more expensive. But I think for most people, the smartphone is going to be what you want. But that we're just putting that in there in case you want to get a little more video-oriented product if you really want to dive into the realm of video. But every year that goes by, the smartphones get better at video, and the smartphones they're making now are as good as any video camera they made 5 years ago. So that's basically. And now you could, for example, buy a whole complicated recording setup with microphones and microphone recorders, but you're really not going to get a big bump up in the quality if you do that. So we should talk about splitting the
Well, maybe Chloe has a
Yeah.
couple more things to add to when Chloe was recording for her festival.
Oh, recording can seem like a really stressful thing, but I promise just take as many takes as you need to. No one's going to see how many takes that you're doing. Just take and take a couple days to do it too. Try not to do it all in one day. That will also be helpful for you. Just have lots of options, and leave it till later. Leave it till probably 2 or 3 days before your deadline. Don't try to be an early bird. It will not help you in this case.
Now, the microphone placement makes a big difference in the sound. So if you want to, so first of all, if you put the microphone 2 to 4 feet away, 5 to 6 feet up, and even 4 feet up or 3 feet up, putting it on a table, you're still going to get pretty good sound. If you do put it on a table, try not to pick a wooden table that vibrates a lot, or put something under the microphone or phone so that it doesn't pick up the vibrations of the table. But to test the best spot, let's say you're using a recorder or a phone, what you want to do is you want to hit the record button for the audio, and you want to try it in a couple of different places, and you want to talk while you're doing that and say, okay, this is 2 feet away and 3 feet up, play a little bit. This is 5 feet away and 4 feet up, play a little bit. If you don't do a little speaking program note, you won't know when you're listening to it later what was what, unless you have the video on. And then listen to that and say, you know, I really liked where it sounded in this one place. And that would probably take you an extra half an hour. And it would make a little bit of a difference in the sound. There's going to be a sweet spot for the microphone, and this is how to find that sweet spot.
That's great advice. Thank you.
So the last thing we want to talk about is splitting the audio from the video, and you probably all got a link. Let's say that, for example, you were recording a video and you just wanted the audio. You can upload that video, and there are companies on the internet that will do that splitting of the audio and the video for you, turn that audio into an MP3. If you want to get a program, there are a couple that we recommend, and we'll have a little PDF that, or you can maybe show the, we prepared a little chart here.
Sorry, it's coming. No, it's this one.
Oh, it's got a list of...
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So this is basically the points we've been talking about. And if you go down to the bottom, oh, here it is. Yeah, in the middle there. There are a couple of programs. One is Premiere Elements, which is the one we recommend. There's another one, which is Magic's Video. And these all cost, there are sometimes free versions you can download, and some of them are between $30 and $60. And there's a very good professional program called DaVinci, which is, there's a free version, DaVinci Lite. It's a little more complicated, but it's absolutely free. And you can load your video into these programs and export an MP3. They all do this. It's not terribly complicated, but the easiest way is to just upload the video to a site that will split the audio off the video and turn it into an MP3.
And that was shared by the Junior Bach Festival already, that link that you can, so you have easy access to that.
So I think that's all we wanted to talk about. Unless, Chloe, you have something you'd like to add?
No, it's all good. I think there are some questions in the chat box.
Yes.
Yeah, let's take some questions.
So one question is, when recording using iPhone, the high pitch sound can appear kind of fade in and out. And how can that be fixed?
We recommend using an app called Filmic. And if there's a high-pitched sound that's part of the, and Filmic is for Android or whatever your phone is, there's a version of Filmic that will work. And then for audio, we recommend the Spire and the BandLab. So I would first say, try one of these apps and see if the problem goes away. If the problem doesn't go away, it means it's built into the phone, and you need to bypass that by buying a Zoom recorder or a microphone. If you buy the microphone or the Zoom recorder, you won't have that high-pitched sound. If you have the high-pitched sound, it's tough to get rid of. Then you need some sophisticated audio software that will remove what's called a pilot tone or a high-pitched sound. And I just don't recommend messing around with it. on that level. But if you, and then the other thing is, this is an audition tape. If you're really stuck with that sound, just put a little note in saying, you know, there's this high-pitched sound, and nobody's going to count that against you.
That's a very good point. Thank you. Yes, in the past, the judges, there has been concern. Some applicants said, you know, there was an interruption or there was some ambient noise, and maybe it wasn't the best quality recording, but really the judges are really able to filter that out and listen to you. So this is just an audition. And there will be other auditions in your life, and you learn from them all. If you do get into the festival and you are able to record a video audition, then you have another opportunity to try out your newfound skills this way. This was an aspect of the festival we never anticipated, and it's pretty exciting. You're sort of helping us over this, you know, new issue, and you know, we get to learn something from it. It's great.
And you can share it with family members who are living far away.
That's right. You can send your recording to all your relatives and friends, or not.
Let's see. Someone else says, I have a low-end budget smartphone. Should I get a higher-end smartphone? And before you address that, you may know people who you can borrow a phone from if you're really desperate. But anyway, go ahead and answer, whoever would like to.
No need. Yeah, I would say go with borrowing. It's just one audition video, and actually, if you're going to purchase something, I really do recommend just purchasing the Zoom. It will come in much handier.
Yeah, and if you want something that does 4K high definition video and has pretty good built-in audio, you can get something like a Samsung Note 4 for like $60 or $70 used, which is perfectly good. It just happens to be a few years old. Don't go out and buy the latest $1,000 smartphone, because it isn't really going to look that different and it isn't going to sound that different. Sony makes the best sounding and video recording smartphones, and I've never met someone with a Sony smartphone. So people buy smartphones for different reasons than audio, and so I wouldn't say go out. As Chloe said, if you're going to buy something, buy the recorder. That's very useful. You don't have to use it for an audition. You can hear yourself play. You know, you can play something, record it, and listen back, and you can say, oh, this is what I sound like. This is what I sound like. Yikes. Or this is what I sound like. Wow, I sound great.
Kent Young says he appreciates V of M, Voices of Music, and Chloe for being part of this. And he would like to know, how does one access the recorded workshop? Should be posted on websites, true. It should be posted on, well, it will be posted on Junior Bach's website, right? So that's how you can get to it.
Yeah, and we can put it on our Vimeo page too, but I think we don't need lots and lots of links. I think go to the Junior Bach website, and while you're there, maybe make a donation.
Wonderful. That's a great suggestion. So this is your opportunity, everybody. If you have a question, the experts are here. Somebody asks, is being near a stairway a problem? We have a room with not much furniture.
Typically not.
Should be fine.
If you're in the stairway, you'll get a sort of a strange effect. If you want to see what that sounds like, you can go sing in the stairway. You'll get kind of a sound. But if you're far enough from the stair, the main thing is, if you're worried about extraneous noise, move the microphone or the smartphone closer to the sound source. That's the main thing, the big takeaway here.
And someone who may be an organist or a vocalist asks, can you give advice on how to set up lighting to make a video recording?
We can. There's a company called Neewer, Neewer, and they make an EE.
Oh, sorry. This way?
Yeah, and what you want is something called a high CRI video lamp. I'm just going to type this. Lighting is really not something we have time to go into, but if you want to buy a couple of lights,
well, for an organist who might be, recording in,
if you're in a dark spot,
church,
yeah, sure,
that might be an issue for sure.
And a set of two is going to cost you about $100 for these newer LED lights, and you want one light on the left and one light on the right, and you're going to have to move those lights around so you don't have any big shadows. They should be up and far to the left and far to the right. It's what we call Rembrandt lighting because it looks like those paintings that Rembrandt painted in the 17th century.
But that's really mostly for the organists. For everybody else, just stay away from open windows because you would show up as a silhouette, and otherwise don't worry too much about it.
Yeah, smartphones are maybe a little different from cameras in that the computer inside the smartphone is compensating for lighting problems. So typically, if you find don't go into a dim corner, don't stand in front of a window, but if you're in a normal space with reasonable lighting, the phone will actually make a pretty good video. If you want to buy the lights, you can buy these lights and it will definitely help. But I think making it more complicated than it needs to be is maybe going to distract from the performance. Focus on the performance and not on the lighting or the sound quality so much.
David, I'd just like you to comment on avoiding the often mistake of backlighting, particularly when your video, lots of people don't understand if standing in front of a window that their face is going to be in shadow.
Yeah, I probably should have put that on our list, but don't stand in front of a window and don't stand in front of a lamp. And don't stand in front of something you don't want people to see.
Exactly.
Whatever that might be.
There's another question. It's a good question for recording a voice entry. Should an accompanist be in the video? And the answer is absolutely yes. And also, please keep in mind a couple of other things. If you are playing a sonata, you are in equal partnership. You are in an equal partnership with the other instrument. So if you are a flute player or a violinist and you're playing a sonata, please do not consider the keyboard player to be your accompanist. You are equal partners. And so in a video, for example, well, you wouldn't do this in a video, but you should be equally visible in a video if you were chosen for a performance.
Isn't that one of the functions of the sound check to make sure that one instrument doesn't bear the other instruments?
Well,
you should always listen a little bit to what you've got to make sure it's what you want. And let me just say very quickly about that. If you have, let's say you have a violin and a piano or a singer and a piano, that piano could very easily be too loud. And there's two things you can do. One is that you step forward a little bit, closer to the microphone, so you're louder relative to the piano. And the other thing is, if the piano has a short stick, put it on the short stick. If it doesn't have a short stick, you can very carefully put a couple of books to hold the lid up, but be very careful you don't damage the piano in any way. Or if it really is the big loud piano, could be a small piano, could be a big one, just close the lid completely. It'll still be plenty loud enough. That's all I have to say about that.
Are there any other questions people would like to have answered while we're here?
Ouch. Ouch, 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 ouch.
If you are not a presenter, please mute yourself. I did have a question about acoustics that are dramatically resonant or extremely dry. So we're asking people to find, some neutral territory that is medium resonance. If you don't have that at home, what do you suggest doing? What are some things you can do?
Well, we don't recommend treating the room. It's just too much trouble. But if
you are in a room with a ton of reflections, You could bring in some
Books.
some books or some a bed covering or something that can absorb the sound, but keep it out of the video. But more than that, I just wouldn't bother.
I mean, there are ways to treat a room with acoustic panels, and we just think, for the purposes of this, we don't want you to like put acoustic panels in your room. The main thing is, if you're really close to the microphone, you're not going to hear the resonance of the room. So if you listen to that sample and there's too much resonance in the room, just get 1 foot away from the microphone, and the sound will be a little forward in the recording, but you won't hear the rest of the room. So that's the easiest way to solve that problem.
When Junior Bach did auditions at Morrison Hall, John Mark used to have a supply of old rugs that we'd put underneath the pianos. They were old, dusty, and finally Spencer threw them away.
Yeah, well, the rugs will not reduce the bass sounds. They'll only reduce the treble sounds. So that's why we like a room with books and a sofa. Try to find a friend who has books and a sofa. So there's still people who have books and sofas, and that makes the best room for recording without going into elaborate treatments. But I think it's really beyond the scope to talk about how to acoustically treat a room. There are websites. There's a guy named Ethan Weiner, W-I-N-E-R, who talks about how you can modify your room. But then if you got a room that's got a bunch of acoustic paneling in it, then you kind of like that room is going to look like that, And unless you have a lot of rooms in your house, I wouldn't recommend changing your rooms to make an audition recording. Just get close to the microphone and you'll be fine.
And if it's the opposite extreme and the room is incredibly dry and you just wish you had a little resonance,
then move a little farther away.
Great.
Or you can take some of the books out of the shelves. Move them.
Do you recommend recording it with those individual stereo microphones like Zooms, and then trying to synchronize that with the video? Or I guess you can buy Zoom mics that just attach to the smartphone too. Is that right?
Yeah, you can. I think if you want to have good audio and good video, the Shure MV88 Plus is your best option. If you there is a $99 Zoom mic, which sounds like the Zoom standalone recorder, but I just don't recommend that because the Zoom recorder is just better. And the Zooms, typically, you have to look at, there's many, many different Zoom models. Most of them have an output, and you can buy a $3 cable and connect the recorder to your camera, or you can connect it to your smartphone. Now, a lot of new smartphones don't have a jack on them anymore. So then sometimes you have to buy an extra connector, so that you've got all these little connectors, but you can make it work. And that's why we like the Shure MV88 Plus. It's a digital connection to the smartphone, so there's no extra. I mean, that's just the best option. And Augusta McKay Lodge made a video, which you can see on our website, where she used that microphone, her smartphone, and it's a fantastic quality. The sound is great and the video is great. So there's all different ways you can do this. You can buy this, you can buy that, you can buy this cable, you can buy that cable. But
all it will do is increase your nerves.
And at a certain point, for the purposes of an audition tape, it's more about the performance than the sound quality. So we're talking about the sound quality, but get a basic good sound and then think about the performance.
And as Chloe mentioned at the very beginning, it's all about you having practiced the piece and then showing you at your best.
Yeah, and I think, what Chloe also said was preparation is the key. And, I'm glad she mentioned that because, if you've been playing music for years and years and years, sometimes you don't go back and think about the most obvious thing that you need to do, which is to prepare properly. And I think let's just maybe end with that.
Chloe, is there anything you would like to add?
If I just have a question. If the auditioner elects to upload the audio and video on YouTube and then forward it to our application process under Slide Room, is there any appreciable loss in quality?
I don't know if it's resampled or not, but typically anything that you upload gets processed by the receiving. So if you upload it to YouTube, it gets reprocessed. And if it goes from there to there, now it could be that they have a direct link, but that's just beyond my experience to know. I don't think anybody really knows what's going on behind the scenes. Even if they say they don't resample it, they may resample it. But I think I just really wouldn't worry too much about that. YouTube has a nice feature that you can upload things as an unlisted number, so that you can upload it and nobody else can see it, or you can see it by invitation. But I think it's beyond the scope of this presentation to see what the best compression formats are. Start off with a good quality audio. If it gets resampled along the way, it gets resampled along the way.
Thank you very, very, very much, everyone, for being with us today. And Voices of Music, it's such an honor to have the most popular music ensemble, early music ensemble in America. And Chloe Kim, your advice was fabulous. Thank you very much. It's been an honor to have you as such an international violin star and, just really practical person. To have all this advice has been really wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. If you have any more questions, you can email me. It's Junior Bach Music Director @gmail.com. And please stay posted on our website for this recording.
And thank you, Lisa.
My pleasure. All right. Thanks, everyone. Be well. Bye. Make great music. See you soon.